In today's lesson, I want to talk to you about 3 important keys to helping you achieve English fluency. That's coming up. Hey everyone, my name is Wes. This is Interactive English, which is all about helping you practice and improve your English skills. And today, I want to talk to you about fluency because many of you out there would like to become fluent in English. You constantly want to improve your skills. So I want to talk to you about 3 useful keys to help you do that. And the first one that I want to talk to you about is exposure. So think about this expression. Have you ever heard the expression, too much of a good thing? Sometimes people might say, well, too much of a good thing, that's bad, that's not good. In this case, when it comes to learning English, that is the good thing. So in my opinion, you can never get enough English. So too much of a good thing, that is great. That means that you are getting a lot of exposure and you are surrounding yourself with the language. I like to say that you need to create an English bubble. You need to create a bubble around yourself that is just full of the English language and get as much exposure as you can throughout the day. So that means that you are getting daily reading in English, daily listening in English. You are taking in the English language with your eyes as well as with your ears. And maybe you can even do both at the same time if you are watching a video and reading subtitles. But remember, don't let exposure to the language stop there. Listening to English or reading in English, it should not stop when the video ends or when the story ends or when the song ends. You need to continuously get exposure to the language and surround yourself with English as much as possible for as long as possible. English when you wake up in the morning and English when you go to bed at night. But in order to do this, you need to think about your environment. And you need to make sure that your environment encourages you to continuously learn English. So what do I mean by that? Let's say that you are reading a book in English. I think you should keep that book as close to you as possible. That book should stay on your nightstand or maybe your desk. You should always be able to see that book and remind yourself, okay, I need to keep reading. If you put that book in a bookshelf surrounded by hundreds of other books, then you are less likely to pick it up again and continue reading. So whether you are listening to English or you are reading a book or taking some online classes, you need to make sure that these things are close by and they are easily accessible. So that's what I mean when I say think about your environment. What are you surrounded by? What is close to you? And if you can keep English as close to you as possible, then that is just going to make that bubble stronger. You are going to get more exposure to the language and you are going to get one step closer to achieving English fluency. The next key to English fluency is practice. That's it. You just need to continuously practice, but you need to do the right kind of practice. So there is a famous quote, which I believe is from a golfer, and the quote is, "Practice puts brains in your muscles." And what this means is that, well, when you are an athlete, you are doing a sport and you are practicing and practicing and practicing, and your muscles become used to that activity and that repetition, and you are able to respond without even thinking. And this is where the idea of muscle memory comes from. I think we could say that the opposite is also true when it comes to learning a language, that the more you practice, it's like your brain is developing muscles to help you understand easily if you are reading or listening, as well as respond quickly if you are speaking and having a conversation or even writing. So practice will make your brain strong enough to listen to and understand a native speaker. Practice will make your brain strong enough to write using the correct grammar. And the reason why practice is so useful is because you are consistently using the language that you already know. And what I would tell you to do, and I'll summarize it like this: get a variety of the same review. Now, you may think, well, that sounds a little strange because a variety is talking about different things, but you just said the same review. Let me tell you what I mean by that. So I think that when learners think about review, nobody gets really excited because they think it's just the same thing. The same. And everybody wants to learn new things. I think quite often learners tend to focus too much on learning new things instead of reviewing what they already know. So, what I would do in my classroom with my students is that I would try and give them a variety of the same review. Say that the topic is animals, and we have a list of vocabulary that we're using when talking about animals, and our grammar is maybe we're just using the past tense. And I would tell somebody, okay, turn to your classmate. We're going to have a conversation. I want you to talk about an animal that you saw in nature. And they would have a conversation for a minute or two. And then I'd say, okay, now I want you to have another conversation and talk to your partner about a trip, about a time that you went to the zoo. They would have another conversation for about a minute. And then finally, we would have a third conversation. And I'd say, turn to your partner and talk about a pet that you had a long time ago, or maybe a pet that you wanted to have a long time ago if you didn't have one. So once this is finished, the learners have had 3 conversations. And they have used the same grammar throughout those conversations. They were talking in the past tense. And it's very likely, because the topic is animals, that they use the same vocabulary, the same words and phrases in each of those conversations. Now, it may not have been exactly the same, but that's what I mean by variety. They were having a variety of conversations about the same topic, that same review, using that same vocabulary and using that same grammar. Another example would be perhaps you want to learn more about politics and you want to learn some words and phrases that are often used when talking about politics. Well, if that's the case, you can go out and find a newspaper article about the leader of your country. And then maybe go find another article about the leader of another country. So you are reading about 2 different people, but it's likely that you may find some of the same words and phrases in both of those articles. So again, you are getting a variety of the same review. And you can connect this to getting the right exposure to the language, because I would always encourage you to read something that you're interested in. The way this is going to be a little different, because we're talking about practice, is that you need to engage in active learning. And what that means is that when you are engaging in active learning, you actually have to do something. You have to respond in some way, shape, or form. You actually are involved in what you are doing. So for example, if you are reading an article, then after you read, then perhaps you have to answer some questions to make sure that you understood what it is that you were reading. Same goes for listening. If you listen to something, if you are doing an active listening exercise, then you will probably have to answer some questions. And there is so much out there for you to get engaged in active learning. Taking a quiz, that is one way to do it. There are many different reading and listening quizzes online. All you have to do is do a search for reading quiz or listening quiz. You can make it more specific by adding a topic that you are interested in. So you could say reading quiz, politics, or listening quiz, cars. Now, you may not find a quiz that is specific to English learners, but you can also add that information in there as well and do a search for learn English, reading quiz, photography. And you will find some type of active learning exercise that you can do and complete, and that is a great way to get practice. Now, if you're able to speak and have a conversation with another person, then that is a great way to engage in active learning, because you just have to respond to someone immediately. And don't forget about writing, whether you are writing an email, an essay, a comment, writing comments. When you guys write comments, that is a great way to practice and engage in active learning, because quite often you are responding to something that I have asked you to do. So the more you practice, the faster you will achieve English fluency. It's that simple. The third key to English fluency is mental toughness. And I don't know if you've ever heard somebody say when talking about a sport, and they'd say, it's a mental game. And when somebody says this, they're often referring to a sport that somebody would do by themselves, like golf or tennis or swimming. And even though they practice, they have that muscle memory, people say it's a mental game, because if an athlete, if they lose it up here, then that becomes a problem. And you could say the same thing about learning a language. It's a mental game because you are really the one responsible for improving your skills and trying to achieve fluency. It really is up to you because you might get a lot of exposure to the language and surround yourself with English, and you practice all the time with these active learning exercises. You still need to have mental toughness, that key to English fluency, because you need to stay focused, you need to stay motivated, you need to stay confident, and you need to stay on your toes and just keep moving forward. That is how you are going to become fluent in English. Let's talk about staying focused. And you need to understand, what are your goals? Are you trying to build your vocabulary? Are you trying to improve your pronunciation? And once you understand that, then that's going to help you focus on what you need to do. It'll help you focus on the kind of exposure that you need to get, as well as the kind of practice that you need to get. Because when you're learning a language, I don't need to tell you this, I know it happens to me, it's very easy to get distracted. And I think quite often learners will start learning and then they stop. And then they start again and then they stop. And then at some point, they may stop altogether. So you need to stay focused when you are learning English and not get distracted by all these other things, which is going to help you achieve fluency. You also need to stay motivated. And the thing that you need to understand with that is, why are you learning English? Are you learning it for your job? Are you learning it for school? Are you learning it maybe for dating and you want to meet somebody who is a native English speaker? Whatever your reason, you need to understand that, because that's going to help you stay motivated, get exposure to the language, practice the language, and keep working toward fluency. I also said you need to stay confident, because when you are practicing your language skills, if you make a mistake, you may lose a little bit of confidence, and you need to overcome that and not worry about making mistakes and just keep moving forward. You need to understand that learning English, there are going to be many successes, and you are going to feel like, wow, I'm learning so much, I'm improving so much. And then over time, there's going to be setbacks as well, where you feel like, well, your learning, it has taken a bit of a dip and you don't think that you are progressing as much as you should. Once you realize and accept that learning a language is full of highs and lows, I think that's going to help you stay confident overall and not focus on those mistakes if you end up making them, because you want to continue in one direction, and that is forward. And finally, I told you, you need to stay on your toes and keep moving forward. And to stay on your toes, this is an English idiom, and it just means that you need to be ready to respond or react to some situation. You need to be ready for a change to occur, because, well, our lives are constantly changing. Our environment is constantly going to change, so you need to stay on your toes and be ready for that. When you are practicing your skills, like you're having a conversation, you need to stay on your toes and be ready to react, ready to respond, ready to answer somebody's questions. Stay on your toes, keep moving forward, and that's going to help you move closer and closer to English fluency. So what I want to do right now is actually practice your English skills. I want you to write to me in the comments. Write to me in the comments, practice your English, because then I'll know that you are truly serious about achieving English fluency. If you enjoyed this lesson, please hit that like button. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.